There was a beautiful castle. It was always busy because it was full of people rushing around and working in it. Many soldiers were needed to guard the castle and all the people that lived in it.
Marching, we must keep together. Even if
in the castle lived the king and his children, Prince Luke and Princess Olivia. The king was a very good king, and everyone loved him.
He's kind, he's kind, he's the kindest king you'll ever see. He's kind, he's kind, he's the kindest ever been. He's nice to us, he helps us all in a time as hard can be. He's kind, he's kind, he's the kindest ever been.
Everyone was very happy living in the castle, but there was one problem. It was very, very cold.
Our castle is a fine old building. It stands on the highest ground. The walls are thick and made of stone, and the soldiers are marching round and round, and the soldiers are marching round. It looks all right on the outside, but things are what they seem. For you will find if you go inside, that it's very cold when the wind blows. It's very cold when the wind blows. It's very cold in the wind. Our castle is a fine old building. It stands on the highest ground. The windows are tall and have no glass, and the wind whistles round and round and round, and the wind whistles round and round. It looks all right on the outside, but things are what they seem. For you will find if you go inside, that it's very cold when the wind blows. It's very cold when the wind blows. It's very cold in the wind.
At night, the wind would whistle around the turrets and through the windows, making everyone shiver with the cold.
Hey, Mr. Wind, stop whistling round my toes. Did you know your whistling is making my toes all cold? Hey, Mr. Wind, stop whistling round my knees. Did you know your whistling is making my knees all cold? Hey, Mr. Wind, stop whistling round my hands. Don't you know your whistling is making my hands all cold? Hey, Mr. Wind, stop whistling round my ears. Did you know your whistling is making my ears all cold? Hey, Mr. Wind, stop whistling round my nose. Did you know your whistling is making my nose all cold?
One day, there was a knock at the great castle doors, and some visitors asked to speak to the king. They were double-glazing salesmen. The king was absolutely delighted to see them, especially when they told him that if he gave them the job of putting in the glass into all the windows in the castle to keep out the cold, they would give him 2 free gifts.
Free gift. The job is yours. When the double-glazing salesman comes and knocks on your door, you'll be in the middle of the top, you can be sure. But if it might decrease, it won't need it quite a bit. For it would be much best to find something
the glass in the windows, they presented the king with the 2 free gifts.
2 clothes? How splendid!
Now the king did not know that the cloaks were not ordinary cloaks. They both had magical powers. One was very beautiful, the other was boring and ragged. Naturally, he picked up the best cloak and put it on. He looked at himself in the mirror. As he did so, he began to feel different. He looked at himself and thought he was the finest person in the whole world. He began to be very vain. Not only was he very vain, but as the days passed, with the king wearing his cloak all day long, he began to get very greedy and mean, taking anything he liked from everyone he met. He took jewels and treasures, and he even made his guards take the children's best toys. The prince and princess were very worried about their father.
Must do something to cheer him up. Let's have a concert, that ought to cheer him up.
So everyone prepared for the big day, and an invitation was sent to the king. That evening the king arrived looking very cross. The people tried to cheer up the king with a song.
Dance with your fingers, dance with your toes, dance with your elbows, anything goes. Sway to the left and sway to the right. If you really want, you can dance all night. Dance with your fingers, dance with your toes, dance with your elbows, anything goes. Sway to the left and sway to the right. If you really want, you can dance all night. Dance with your fingers, dance with your toes, dance with your elbows, anything goes. Sway to the left and sway to the right. If you really want, you can dance all night.
But the king was still sad. Then they tried telling him a joke.
Daddy, how on a Saturday night? We don't know! To the movies. Where do the sick want go to get better? We don't know! To the
That's it all.
But he was still sad. The concert hadn't helped at all, and the people were at a loss as to what to do. The king was still feeling sad. He was so sad that he took off his beautiful cloak and threw it on the floor. He picked up his boring, tatty cloak and put it around his shoulders. All of a sudden, he began to feel a warm glow inside, and somehow he felt a little bit better. He looked around and thought, why have I been so mean and cross to my people when they've always been very kind to me? I am so sorry. He ordered the guards to give everything back to the people, and at last the king was happy and kind again. There's a moral to this tale, as I am sure that you will see. Not everything attractive is what it seems to be. The castle strong and beautiful, inside was cold it seems. The shiny cloak made the king become greedy, sad and mean. But when he wore the ragged one and forgot about his pride, he stopped his unkind actions and felt differently inside. For no one is so important that they can ever say, I must have the best, must always have my way. That's not the way to happiness, as you will surely find. It's the ordinary simple things that bring joy and peace of mind. So the king and all his people rejoiced.
Salesmen were a stroke of genius. Just like to say thank you very much, both the children, for all that hard work. And then to the early years team, Mrs. Tomlinson, for producing and directing and sorting out the costumes, all of that. Well done.